episode in our Donkeys and Dragons video chat series. And I'm here with my fellow co-founder of Agile Testing Fellowship, Janet Gregory. I'm Lisa Crispin. I forgot to say who I was.
It's early morning. So today we're going to talk about holistic testing, and we're both very passionate about this. So first of all, let's just look at what we mean by that. So one of the things I don't like about the traditional DevOps model is that there's testing as a phase. We like Dan Ashby's "we test here and here and here" model, really like that, but it wasn't quite explicit enough. So I've been trying to play with it. And my first model, the first attempt, I guess, didn't quite make the cut. It wasn't providing what I wanted. So this is something that I've hopefully, and I expected we'll tweak it as we go, because that's what you do. But hopefully this one resonates with people. So it's got the infinite loop, which we both like. We first, saw and discovered to deliver. Mary Gorman and Ellen Gottesdiener's book, Discover to Deliver. But it's taken and changed it a little bit. So we're talking about testing early during planning, discover, planning, understanding, right? Those are all about testing ideas early. Then we move into the build and deploy. And that's where we start looking for bugs. We're testing, we might be doing some exploratory testing, we might be doing smoke testing, automation, all kinds of different things. And then on the right side, we get into the release and observing. And that's where we really start looking at what our customers do with our code. How are they using it? And then, of course, the learning. The learning is all about adapting and changing back into the next cycle. So is there anything you want to point out in this diagram, Lisa? We're not going to go into it in detail because, but because we would be here for hours.
And you have a great blog post on your janetgregory.ca website that explains it in detail. But I think it's always important to say this is a model, it's a thinking tool. It helps us have great conversations about these topics, but it is not something set in stone that every team needs to do exactly the same. And also that it is a focus on preventing bugs, and how do we prevent bugs, and how do we deliver value to customer and make sure our customers not only don't feel pain, but also are happy and have what they need.
Right. So go look at the details on my blog posts. But in the meantime, I'm going to stop sharing so that I can chat with Lisa a little bit better. There. That's better. I hate looking at slides the whole time.
Yeah, and one of the things I really like is the term holistic testing. A lot of people refer to this sort of loop as continuous testing. And unfortunately, that's one of the terms that has gotten 20 different meanings. Many people equate continuous testing with the automated testing we do in continuous integration. And that is important.
It is important.
It's not everything that we're thinking of.
Yeah, I think you wrote a blog post a while ago about continuous testing and how people have, I don't know, I used and abused the term, right?
Yeah, and then other people have come up with other terms. Sergio Freire, I don't know how to say his name.
Sorry,
he came up with omni testing, which I really liked, and he even had an omni testing online conference. But again, that's a word that may seem strange to people, and I think holistic, people understand what that means.
Yeah, I agree. It just, to me, when I think of holistic, I mean the whole thing, right? And when I liked omni better, but it didn't say what I was thinking, I guess is the best way.
And it doesn't necessarily capture that the whole team, the whole delivery team is involved.
Right. And that's something we really strongly believe in. Yeah. Also, the idea of shift left, shift right. When I hear that term, it's always about a linear kind of thing. Let's go more to the left, let's go more to the right. But I don't think development is that way. It's why I like the infinite loop, because we just go round and round in circles,
Mm-hmm.
especially if we're not doing projects, but
Right.
product development, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I see more and more teams going to, is the product development.
Yeah, and building what we're learning on both sides of that loop. It's
Yeah.
really important that we do both.
So yeah, so if I think about shift left, I'm thinking about the left side of the loop
Hmm.
versus the right side of the loop. But it's a term
Exactly.
that's, yeah.
It made me comfortable with those terms, but because I didn't like those terms before, but that's like
Either.
I can picture it in my mind.
Yeah. And I don't even think we need to say shift, right?
Right.
Because this is the idea of holistic, is we need all of it. And so we're hoping that teams are able to do all of it.
But I think looking at this model, will help you understand your team might not be addressing all these areas in the way that you'd like. And so the team I'm on right now, we do a great job of test-driven development. We're doing ensemble programming, so that's helping to prevent bugs because we have people from multiple perspectives and skill sets looking at the code and looking at the tests that we're writing as we go. But even so, we're not using business-facing tests to guide development yet, and that is something that a few of us on the team have done before, and we're really pushing it. And it's interesting to me that, more junior developers, maybe right out of college, they don't teach that in schools apparently, and
Now,
they don't know what I mean when I say acceptance test driven development or behavior driven development or specification by example. So they're missing that chunk of having those conversations, capturing concrete examples, capturing business rules,
yeah,
and then turning those into the executable tests. They're doing the executable tests, but they're doing them after they write the code,
right.
the business facing ones.
Yeah.
And so it's been an interesting process to try to help them understand why it would be important to
Shift a
do
little
this.
bit left.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think part of that is sometimes when you get, it's what I call a train wreck, right? When something obviously went out and we end up spending, or you end up spending a lot of time trying to figure out what's going on. How could you have prevented that, right? I'm
Mhm.
working with a client, for example, right now, that they're doing a lot of really good things. But if they only took that little bit of time for the team to have that discussion and work through some examples, I think they'd waste far less in that churn during the build, right?
Mhm.
And we don't mean, when we say discover, plan, and understand, to take weeks to do this, right? It can be very short. If you've got a small story that you understand fairly well, maybe it's a matter of minutes,
Mhm.
right? But if you take that Kneffen model, right? If you're
Mhm.
in a really complicated thing, maybe you need to spend a little bit more time. So
Yeah.
adjust, right?
It's an investment. People say, "Oh, we don't want to take time up too much time up front."
Yeah,
But and it is a balance, but it's going to save you time, and I can see opportunities for my team to improve our cycle time by spending a little bit more thinking about the business facing tests up front, not only the technology facing tests.
right. Yeah, it's
And,
kind of
and the
a pay
other
me now, pay me later, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the other thing I think one thing I think my team does a great job is on the right side of that loop, using our logging, using our monitoring. Last week we
Uh,
did we flipped a switch from version 1 to version 2 of a really critical API. I mean, this is the heart of
yeah,
our product. And some of it was done for a new product, but we also had a new version for the old product. Should have the same functionality. We've got tons of accepted or automated tests.
yeah,
We've done a lot of exploratory testing, but it's always scary. But it gave
that
us so much
is.
confidence because we had good logging and we could look at our monitoring and logging
Uh,
and alerting and feel confident. First, we did it in staging. Yeah, we
yeah.
see what we expect to see. And then we did in production, we watched very carefully. And within 10 minutes, we were all just, yeah, it's good. And we
It's
have
good.
alerts in case something does go wrong. And so that right side is really important to think about too. And the team did put a lot of thought into what do we need to log? What alerts do we need?
Yeah,
What events should we capture in case we have a problem? So
yep.
that's really important too.
And that's where, in that understanding area,
Hmm.
right, where you're really thinking about, um, what do we need to do,
Yeah,
That's part of it,
before
right?
we're, do that before the day before release, for example. So we did that really
Exactly. That's good. That's excellent. But that leads us into like how do the people, a generic people out there, not that they're generic, they're all individuals, but how do the masses bring this into their own companies when we're struggling to get the terms BDD out,
Mhm.
or acceptance test driven development? How do we get the idea of this holistic testing that both sides are important? That how do we get teams to adopt this?
Well, I think having a model like this to talk about it is important. So maybe we can get the teams like, oh, let's do a little lunch and learn, and I'd like to talk to you about this, or let's take 30 minutes and just have a conversation about this. My team does a strategy meeting every week. This would be a perfect thing for me to bring into the strategy meeting and say, oh, we need a little more of this. Let's
Ah,
talk about it. So that's one way. And I think it's also important, like I say, there are a couple other people on my team, the more senior people who've done ATD before, and they're keen to start it as well. And so I'm working with them to say, how can we really get started? Well, and
right.
having those allies helps you, they support you and help spread those ideas. And let's find a story that we can experiment and try writing the uh, writing the tests.
Yeah.
We use Gherkin. Let's write those Gherkin tests before we write the code. And I am seeing people starting to do it, but it's one baby step at a time.
It's a slow process, right? And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. They wanted to do it all, right?
Hmm.
But sometimes just taking it slow, is the way to build up that knowledge, the way to build up, um, people's, what do I want to say? People's tolerance for new things
Hmm.
as well, right?
Yeah, change. People have trouble with change. Having support outside your team is helpful too. So when I first started this job, I was worried because there was a team that people were referring to as the DevOps team. And I'm like, oh, there's an anti-pattern, because
Yeah,
DevOps culture is us all owning our product, and even when it's in production. But they've changed their title to Dev Advocates.
okay,
And so they are teams, but they're there's one virtually on our
yeah,
team, and on each development team, they're not coming in and here's your platform, here's your infrastructure. They're coming in and say, what do you need? Let's build it together.
right,
Let's plan it together. Let's test it together. And now that it's done, you know how to take care of it.
right.
I think it's a great model.
Yeah,
Um,
it is. It is. I know 20, dating myself again, 20 years ago when I was on my first Agile team, we had somebody we called the build master.
mm,
DevOps wasn't invented or anything else. He was the person who kept the continuous integration going and things, but the team worked together to figure out what that was. And I kind of like that title of build master because that means that there's somebody who specializes in it,
mm-hmm.
who understands it really well, but the rest of the team works with them.
Right.
And he was part of our team. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was, yeah, lots of different ways to take it, but the
Mm-hmm.
ownership is for the team. And I think that's this idea of holistic testing,
Mm-hmm.
is ownership is by the team.
Right. And even if some of your team members are like virtual, maybe they report to somebody else, but they're still feel part of the team, and
Yeah,
we can all feel like we're in this together.
exactly. Do you know what I forgot to do, Lisa?
What?
I forgot to set my timer. I have no
Oh,
idea how long we've been talking.
well, I know we've been talking for at least 10 minutes because I looked at my clock 9 minutes ago.
It's
But
yeah.
But it
So
feels like we've introduced this topic pretty well on this
I
model.
think
So
so.
I hope people will go get your blog post and download this image, and maybe have a little talk with your team at your next strategy meeting, or your next lunch and learn, or whatever opportunity, or
Right.
maybe just to one person on your team that you feel like would be interested in, and grow it.
So sorry, I'm just going to share the screen again so people can see it one last time before we wrap up. So share the screen. There we go. Give you one last little bit, but yes, share it. We hope people share it. Um, if you and here's if you want this picture, just email me,
Mhm.
or either of us actually, and which I'll put our contact information up. We enjoy emails, but if you want a picture, I'll gladly send it to you. Just give the appropriate accreditation, and it's open, and we hope people use it. That's what we
let
really
us
want.
know. Let us know if you do try, if you start working on this. Let us know your team's reaction. We'd be interested to.
Yes, absolutely. Also, is there anything that you would think should be tweaked with it? Right? Because we recognize that the ideas that we have up there are examples. Not everybody's going to do everything. Tried to keep it generic, high level, but if there's something that you think about that we missed, please give us a shout.
Yeah, this is something for the whole community to try out and work on.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed this episode of Donkeys and Dragons. And for those who missed why it's called this, you can go back to episode 1 where we explain it all.
All right. Well, this has been fun, and looking forward to the next episode already.
Yes. So have a good day, and we'll see you next time.